Trade truce holds, but tariffs still sting. The U.S. and China have decisively extended their trade truce until 10th of November, just hours before the two largest economies were poised to increase tariffs against each other. In a joint statement, both Beijing and Washington announced that the planned higher tariffs will be suspended for an additional 90 days. Last month's talks concluded with both sides acknowledging the discussions as constructive. China's chief negotiator emphasized a commitment to preserving the truce, while U.S. officials awaited final approval from President Donald Trump. On Monday, Trump took action by signing an executive order to solidify the extension of the truce. Under this agreement, the U.S. will maintain its tariffs on Chinese imports at 30%, while China will retain a 10% tariff on American goods. This extension allows further time for negotiations aimed at addressing trade imbalances and unfair trade practices, as highlighted by the White House. The U.S. is facing a trade deficit of nearly $300 billion with China in 2024, the largest with any trading partner. Ongoing talks will focus on enhancing access for U.S. exporters to China, as well as tackling critical national security and economic issues. A spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in Washington stated, "Win-win cooperation between China and the United States is the right path. Suppression and containment will lead nowhere." China called on the U.S. to lift its unreasonable trade restrictions and emphasized the need for collaboration to benefit companies on both sides while maintaining stability in global semiconductor production. Increasing tariffs would have undoubtedly led to more trade disruption and economic uncertainty. Tensions escalated significantly between the U.S. and China in April, when Trump announced sweeping tariffs on goods from various countries, with China facing some of the most substantial charges. In retaliation, Beijing imposed its own tariffs, triggering a tit-for-tat escalation that resulted in soaring tariffs and near paralysis of trade between the nations. In May, the two parties agreed to set aside some of those measures, resulting in Chinese goods entering the U.S. facing an additional 30% tariff compared to the beginning of the year, alongside a new 10% tariff on U.S. goods entering China. Discussions continue to revolve around crucial issues such as access to China's rare earths, its purchases of Russian oil, and U.S. restrictions on advanced technology sales, including semiconductor chips. Recently, Trump eased some export restrictions, permitting companies like AMD and NVIDIA to resume sales of specific chips to Chinese firms in exchange for sharing 15% of their revenues with the U.S. government. The U.S. is also pressing for the divestment of TikTok from its Chinese owner, ByteDance, a move that has met opposition from Beijing. Even with the truce, trade flows have been adversely affected this year, with U.S. government figures indicating that imports of Chinese goods in June plummeted nearly 50% compared to June 2024.